إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا، فإنه من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له، وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له، وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. اللهم صل وسلم على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين من تبعهم بإحسان إلى يوم الدين، أما بعد. يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله حق تقاته ولا تموتن إلا وأنتم مسلمون. يا أيها الناس اتقوا ربكم الذي خلقكم من نفس واحدة وخلق منها زوجها وبث منهما رجالا كثيرا ونساء، واتقوا الله الذي تساءلون به والأرحام إن الله كان عليكم رقيبا. يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله وقولوا قولا سديدا يصلح لكم أعمالكم ويغفر لكم ذنوبكم، ومن يطع الله ورسوله فقد فاز فوزا عظيما. أما بعد، فإن أحسن الحديث كتاب الله، وأحسن الهدي هدي نبينا محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم، وشر الأمور محدثاتها وكل محدثة بدعة وكل بدعة ضلالة. I bear witness that there is no true deity worthy of worship except Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and that His Prophet Mohamed sallallahu alayhi wa sallam is His final and last messenger. O you who believe, have taqwa of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Fear Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as He should be feared. And do not die except in a state of submission to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, in a state of Islam to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. O you who believe, have taqwa of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and say the correct thing, say the correct speech, say the truth. If you do so, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will rectify and correct your actions. And whomever obeys Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and His messenger, then he has already attained the ultimate success. Dear brothers and sisters in Islam, the best of speech is the book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the Quran. And the best of guidance is the guidance of His messenger Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. And the worst of matters are newly innovated matters in this religion, because whatever is innovated in this religion will lead you astray, and whatever will lead you astray will lead you to the hellfire. Dear brothers and sisters in Islam, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had mentioned throughout the Quran in different verses and different surahs the story of how the animosity between Shaitan, Iblis, and Adam alayhi salam started. And afterwards the progeny of Adam alayhi salam. Now we all know the story. However, I want to have a bit more of a critical view of it. Because to be honest, it's quite an interesting story. The reality of the story is it talks about a being who was extremely pious. This being was so pious that he would worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with the angels. This is a being who believes in the existence of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, who believes in the angels, who believes that there is a day of judgment, that his actions will be judged. A being that in fact that might have spoke to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as the verses of the Quran show. But yet it's amazing. Why did this being change? How did he move from such a status of piety to be the worst of creations, to be a leader of those who are disbelievers, the leaders who are those who are disobedient, the ones who would lead everyone else to the hellfire? What is it that caused this change? To be honest, this is something that we should look at. Because when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us these things, we need to learn from them. And there are many lessons to be learned. But what is it that made Iblis do this? If you look at the verses of the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in it tells us these things. And we're going to look at 3 verses in the Quran, just in one surah, Surah Al-A'raf. Well, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when He talks to Adam alayhi salam, talks to Iblis, about why he did not obey the order to prostrate to Adam alayhi salam. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala asked him, مَا مَنَعَكَ أَلَّا تَسْجُدَ إِذْ أَمَرْتُكَ? What prevented you from prostrating if I had ordered you, or once I ordered you? And so the answer of Iblis was, أَنَا خَيْرٌ مِّنْهُ خَلَقْتَنِي مِنْ نَارٍ وَخَلَقْتَهُ مِنْ طِينٍ. So this was the logic of Iblis. He said that I am better than this creation that you have created. For you have created me from fire and you created him from clay. Now Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala refers to this action and describes it. And He says, فَقَالَ اهْبِطْ مِنْهَا فَمَا كَانَ لَكَ أَن تَتَكَبَّرَ فِيهَا فَاخْرُجْ إِنَّكَ مِنَ الصَّاغِرِينَ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala called this action an action of arrogance. He said, then get out of it, referring to the Jannah and the high levels. He said, leave it, get out of it. It is not for you to be arrogant in this. Go, descend, and you are among the ones who are disgraced. So it tells us that the essence that what brought down Iblis, the shaitan, was actually a disease in the heart. Kibr, arrogance. Diseases of the heart generally, they go back to specific roots, two main roots. One of them is misconceptions, and the other one is desires. For Iblis, it was misconception. He had the misconception that his entity of creation was better than any other entity. It's a misconception, and he acted upon it. He saw in himself that he is better, that he is higher. But the reality is, what gave him the right to say this? Is it Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that showed him that this creation is better than this? It wasn't. It was a misconception that he acted upon. A misconception that made him think that he is better than anything else. And kibr is something that is very dangerous, because it leads to other diseases. It leads to envy. Hasad. Hasad, by the way, can be caused by many reasons. One of the main reasons is arrogance, kibr. Now the Prophet ﷺ described kibr as batrul haqq wa ghamtul nas. As mentioned in Sahih Muslim, the Prophet ﷺ said kibr, he describes kibr. What is kibr? He said ghamtul haqq, which means rejecting truth. Wa ghamtul nas, which means to look down upon others, to belittle others, to think that they are beneath you. And this is what Iblis did. When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala ordered him an order, this was the truth. This was an order from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It encompassed the knowledge of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the wisdom of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the justice of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So it is the truth. Any command from Allah encompasses qualities. But Iblis, because of his arrogance, he was unable. It made him reject this order. And so the kufr of Iblis was kufr, kibr and inad, of arrogance and stubbornness. He rejected that order. How can I prostrate to this being that you have created from mud, and I'm better than him? And so he rejected this order. And then he also looked down upon Adam. Now this leads to hasad. Hasad means that you are not satisfied with the bounties that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given to others. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given Adam a bounty that He made the angels prostrate to him. In honor, not in worship, in honor. And so Iblis said, how can a person in his thoughts, this creation who is less than me, be honored and I not be honored? And so this is hasad, and to desire it to be removed. So this was the second disease of the heart that Iblis had. Now when you have this hasad, essentially, by the way, with kibr and hasad, in them it encompasses, whether direct or indirect, any accusation to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Because when you say that I am better than others, and I am more justified to have these bounties, then you are accusing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala of not being wise or just in bestowing those bounties upon others. And this in reality is very dangerous. It is especially in a situation, a person like, or an entity like Iblis, who knows his Lord, who has worshipped him, who has seen the angels, who believes in all these things. So he has a level of iman or belief and things that he has seen that others haven't. And yet he disobeyed these orders. So for him, this is more dangerous, and it's more The weight of it is heavy. And so because of this hasad, Iblis had made it a point to take his Adam alayhi salam and his offspring as enemies. This is why, in the continuing the verse, Iblis had asked Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, قال أنظرني إلى يوم يبعثون قال إنك من المنظرين قال فبما أغويتني لأقعدن لهم صراطك المستقيم. So Iblis over these verses, he said, my Lord, قال أنظرني, give me time until the time of resurrection. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told him, you have been given this time. So what did he say? Now this is a third problem with Iblis. He said, فَبِمَا أَغْوَيْتَنِي, by Allah, because of what you had led me astray. Now these are diseases of the heart. What did Iblis just do? He blamed Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for his wrong actions. Now this is something else. Quite often a person who is arrogant, a person who sees himself higher than anybody else, who has envy that others might have something he doesn't have, he blames his own shortcomings on those others. So he blamed Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for his own shortcomings, and he said, I will be on that straight road that you place for your servants to lead them astray. Now, these characteristics, we have to learn from them, because they're not only in Iblis. Now, they are considered satanic qualities, but they propagate in humans. And they show up throughout history. And it's one of the main reasons that many of the people reject the message of Islam. Whether it is Fir'aun with Musa, and the people of Fir'aun. We know that the people of Fir'aun thought themselves as a higher class than the people of Bani Israel. And this is why they oppressed them. This is why they treated them in that behavior, in that manner. And then when a person from Bani Israel came as a messenger, how could they accept it? They said to themselves, we are the higher class. We are better than them. And Fir'aun, even the worst of them all, he said, how can you have another Lord when I am your Lord? So this is the highest level of arrogance. It made him reject the truth. When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala also tells us, وَاسْتَيْقَنَتْهَا أَنفُسُهُمْ, and they themselves knew what was right. But it's that arrogance, that envy, that it did not come through them, but through other people that made them reject it. It's the same reason why Bani Israel themselves, when they had their prophet with them, and they asked for a king to lead them in war out of the desert, when the prophet told them, إِنَّ اللَّهَ قَدْ بَعْثَ لَكُمْ طَالُوتَ مَلِكًا, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has sent to you Talut as a king. What did they say? Many of them did not follow him. They said, أَنَّ يَكُونُ لَهُ الْمُلْكِ, how can he have the kingship? How can he be a king above us? وَلَمْ يُؤْتَ سَعَةً مِنَ الْمَالِ, and he doesn't need anything financially, that you can see. Nothing. وَنَحْنُ أَحَقُّ بِالْمُلْكِ مِنْهُ, they said that before, that we are more right of kingship than he does. He has nothing, we have the wealth. So this is arrogance. The people of Quraysh, one of many reasons they rejected the message was this arrogance, this envy. When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had revealed the Quran and the wahy of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, their excuse was what? In the verse of the Quran mentions it. It's saying, shouldn't it be that ولو قال هذا لنزل, they said ولو لنزل هذا القرآن على رجل من القريتين عظيم. He said, if it wasn't that this Quran would be revealed upon a man, from a great man, from the two other nations, talking about Mecca or Ta'if. So they're looking at the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and they said, how can he have the message? Why him? If it was revealed to another one of these two individuals or men from the great two nations of Mecca and Quraysh, talking about their nobility, then maybe perhaps we would follow. This is arrogance and envy. And in fact, they looked down upon the believers. And they looked down upon them. And he said, how can it, are those the ones that follow the message? Those the ones that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bestowed His mercy upon them or His bounty upon them? So this is how they looked upon these people. It's a very severe disease. Something that would lead to arrogance, not just as an individual, but even more at a greater level. At the level of nationalism. When different people from different countries view themselves as higher and better than others. Isn't that what leads to oppression of one nation to another? They wrongly think that they are better than others. Why? What is it? What are the qualities they have? What is it that makes them better than other human races? Now there is a measurement, by the way, but it doesn't lead to arrogance. It does not lead to this defect. Because our religion, this is why, because of the diseases that these things cause. Because when you become arrogant, when you become envious, it leads you to disobedience. It leads you to wrongdoing. It leads you to injustice. In fact, sometimes blatantly defying logic. It's amazing when you look back and you look at a person who has a narcissist behavior, or a group of nations that claim that they are better than others. When you sit back and look at them, you find that their actions are illogical. That they kill people without reason. That they oppress people without real reason. No true basis to it. Just only because they think they are better. This is why Islam had prevented all these things. Prohibited all these defects of the heart. When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed to the Prophet ﷺ his teachings, when the Prophet ﷺ told us in many different hadith. For example, the Prophet ﷺ has said, لا يدخل الجنة من كان في قلبه مثقال ذرة من كبر. None of you will enter Jannah, no one will enter Jannah if in his heart is an ounce, مثقال ذرة. ذرة can be either the dust particles that you see when the light shines, or it can mean the smallest, tiniest, the offsprings of ants. They're quite tiny. If you have a speck of that, of arrogance, of kibr in your heart, you will not enter Jannah. So it's telling you, remove all this. Because if you have kibr, you're going to reject what is right. Maybe because it comes from a person that you look down upon. So how can you follow this person? Now, by the way, we see these individuals not necessarily just in religion, but even in just accepting regular ideas from others. Even though it may be beneficial ideas, but sometimes we reject it because how can it not come from me? As simple as that, by the way. Now, this is a very subtle defect that sometimes it goes and we don't notice it. It affects us and we don't notice it, so we have to look upon these things. Sometimes we disobey Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala because of these things. We think we are better. All these other ones that are following this religion, they're not very logical. We sometimes think that. Not many, alhamdulillah. But sometimes that's the reason some of the Muslims do not obey the regulations of Islam. Another hadith that has to do with envy. The Prophet ﷺ said, لا تحاسدوا ولا تباغضوا ولا تقاطعوا وكونوا عباد الله إخوانا. He said, do not have envy against one another. Do not hate one another or act upon things that cause hatred between of you. And do not sever the relations between you. And be all of you the servants of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. وَكُونُوا عِبَادَ اللَّهِ إِخْوَانًا. The servants of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and you are brothers. Now the reason that a person who has envy or arrogance in his heart does not enter Jannah, because he is missing one of the qualities that are important as a believer. A believer loves for the others what he loves for himself. How can that happen when you think you're better than others? It doesn't. Now the Prophet ﷺ even took it from the individual level to the national level, to the racial level. In Khutbah al-Wada', when he clarified things clearly, and he said, أَلَا إِنَّ رَبَّكُمْ وَاحِدٌ وَإِنَّ أَبَاكُمْ وَاحِدٌ. He said to everybody, verily your Lord is one. He has created all of you. And your Father is one. We all came from Adam. So no one is really better than the other. And he even specified that. He reiterated and he said, ألا إنه لا فضل لعربي على أعجمي ولا لعجمي على عربي ولا لأحمر على أسود ولا لأسود على أحمر. The Prophet ﷺ used two different things and he pinpointed them. He said, so verily there is no virtue no virtue for an Arab over a non-Arab. Now this is over here, descendants. Some people might believe that because they descend from a specific lineage, that they might have more virtue. Prophet ﷺ said, no, there is no virtue for an Arab over a non-Arab, or a non-Arab. Arab is not more virtuous than a Arab. And then the Prophet ﷺ used skin color. He said, وَلَا لِأَحْمَرْ عَلَى أَسْوَدْ. Ahmar over here, by the way, in the Arabic language, all the Arabic language can refer to white. And so it can mean, and there's no virtue for a white over a black. And there's no virtue of a black over a white. But he made an exception. He said, إِلَّا بِالتَّقْوَى. Except with piety. That is the true measurement. What really differentiates between individuals. But the interesting about piety, it is in the heart. You really cannot see it. And you cannot judge it. Yes, sometimes from the external people act pious, but you never know from the inside. And so you can never really determine whether the person in front of you, are you better than him, or is he better than you? So even at the racial, at the national level, if you follow the teachings of Islam, it prevents all these things. Now what I'm saying is that first disease in the heart that started in Iblis, those qualities propagate and they exist. And perhaps they are cause of many of the injustice that we see between ourselves and between nations. Perhaps it is the cause and root of any sort of racism that we see within ourselves or between nations. Because the essence, when some person becomes a racist, why are they thinking this? They inherently think that they are better than others. They think that they are better than others. I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to purify our hearts from all the diseases of the heart. To make us among the ones who follow the footsteps of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam and truly become brothers and sisters in Iman. إن الحمد لله حمدا كثيرا طيبا مباركا فيه وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله اللهم صل على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما صليت على آل إبراهيم إنك حميد مجيد وبارك على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما باركت على آل إبراهيم في العالمين إنك حميد مجيد. Dear brothers and sisters in Islam, this topic, if we truly understand it, we gotta understand what led to the events in Charlottesville, in Virginia, the past weekend. We're talking about a group of individuals, whether they call themselves white supremacists, whatever they call themselves. If you sit back and think of what brought them to this level, it's easy to realize that it is something that they have in their hearts. It is a disease. They might not notice it or realize that it is a disease, but it is. Because the actions that are produced by that belief are illogical. When they think that they are better than others, because of their skin color, or because of their lineage, whatever the case is. I've heard different people among them of those groups debate different aspects, whether it ranges from talks about our forefathers when they built this land, and they forget that they stole it from other people, and that they killed other people for it, by the name of race once again. Or whether it is that we are protecting our race. What is it that they're protecting? They're not the entire human race. But does it really justify that they spew hatred and curses and profanity? Because this is a sign of people who are uncivilized. People who do not have the intellectual ability to debate. Because when you are able to debate, because you have no argument, you resort to violence. You resort to name calling. When you attack others because they're from a different race, it is illogical. What did they do? You can't really pinpoint it. It is different when you judge an individual because of what he has done. But to generalize and to say an entire race is better than others because of such and such is illogical. We see what has, or what can bring out, or what can produce such racism in people, but we ourselves have to be aware of this. Now, the best way to engage such things is intellectual discussions and debates, and education. After teaching ourselves, after learning, and after asking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to protect us and to guide us. May Allah protect all of us and guide all of us. But this ideology, by the way, yes, it is magnified extremely, but we have to be aware sometimes it's in miniature forms in ourselves. We do not want to ever be the end like these individuals. Because really, just look at them. It makes no sense. I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to protect all of us. I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to keep us on the straight path. And I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to accept our deeds and actions and make us among the ones who enter Jannah. For those who are with the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Allahumma aghfir lil mu'minat yahya minhum wal amwat. Allahumma rahmatika ya arhamar rahimin. واسألك الهدى والتقى والعفاف والغنى. اللهم ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار. اللهم علمنا ما ينفعنا وانفعنا بما علمتنا وزدنا علما. اللهم انصر اخواننا المستضعفين في كل مكان. اللهم انصر اخواننا المستضعفين في كل مكان. اللهم كن لهم ولا تكن عليهم. اللهم كن لهم ولا تكن عليهم. اللهم امددهم بمدد من السماء وانصرهم نصرا عزيزا مؤزرا. واخر دعوانا ان الحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى الله وسلم على نبينا محمد وعلى اله واصحابه اجمعين. واخر دعوانا ان الحمد لله